So, welcome to Season of Change, transforming your life by the power and the word of God. I am your host, Pastor Joseph Jeremiah from Nigeria. I have my guest here on this episode, on the ninth episode of From Survivor onto Calling. Abass Khan is on this episode to share the story of conversion, how he met with Christ through his wife, and is now a great evangelist preaching to people all around. So he will be sharing his story on this platform this morning. So welcome, Abbas.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So thank you so much for the privilege to have you on our platform, Season of Change. Quickly, we want you to share a brief introduction about your background, about yourself, to our audience, listening audience.
Okay, perfect. So I was born and raised into an Ahmadi Muslim family in the United States. Basically, my religion, the Islam I was born into, believed that the second coming of Jesus happened in 1899. A man in India called himself the promised Messiah, saying he was the second coming of Jesus. So my family became followers of him, and I was born in 1989, and I was born into the religion. That's what I tell people. And I was up till the age of 21. I was an Ahmadi Muslim, believing in Muhammad, believing in the promised Messiah, believing in everything a Muslim believes in. And then at the age of 21, I moved away from my family's home to live with my siblings in Austin, Texas. They were not Muslim, but I was still a practicing Muslim. So I went to Austin, and I was fasting during Ramadan, which is actually around this time. And when I was fasting, I reached out to someone I truly cared for. And I just simply mentioned to them that, you know, because of the 110-degree heat during Ramadan, I couldn't go without water because I was blacking out. I was feeling very, very faint from having no water. And that person told me that in Islam, if you were to pass away while you are fasting, you will be sent straight to heaven. Your sins will be forgiven, and your family will receive blessings. So I finished the fast, and then the day after the fast ended, I stopped being Muslim. I stopped praying. I stopped fasting because of that one comment. But I also believed when I was Muslim that I couldn't hear from God. God was not speaking to me. God was not protecting me. I didn't feel any closeness to God. So what that person said was the final straw. It caused me to realize, okay, I don't believe that God would tell me to die for my religion when that's not how I see God. And I didn't see God up until, as a Muslim. So I just decided I was no longer going to be a Muslim. But I also gave up on God completely. I wasn't looking to become Christian. I wasn't looking to become any other religion. I just decided I no longer want to follow God and do my own thing. So I was ex-Muslim for 10 years. And in 2021, I went through a very difficult time in my life where I actually completely cursed God. I told God that I no longer believe in you at all. You're done. And I wanted to give my life to the devil. I wanted to start doing things that I never did, even as a Muslim or as an ex-Muslim, because I was so angry with God. So on a chance encounter, I picked up a lady who is now my wife, and we just started talking and becoming friends. And she mentioned very early on that she was Christian, and I simply said, I don't have an interest in that. I would just like to be friends, and we can keep religion out of it. So we did that for a 4 or 5 days, and then about 4 or 5 days later, I decided I wanted to spend more time with her because I liked her, right? I wanted to spend more time. So I simply asked her if I could watch a movie at her home. And at the time, she was single. But she said that she was technically married to God. God ran her life. God took care of everything for her. So when I came over to watch the movie, she ended up putting on the Passion of the Christ movie. And as a background, Muslims or Ahmadi Muslims, I was raised to believe that Jesus was just a prophet. He went to the cross, but because Sabbath was the next day, or because when Sabbath came, they took him down from the cross. He was healed, and then he lived until the age of 125. And that was my belief about Jesus. I didn't see him as the Son of God. I didn't see him as God. I didn't see him as the human, God in flesh. So I watched the movie, and the moment I saw the whipping scene, the brutality of how he was treated, I started crying. Something inside me just started welling up. At the end of the movie, I just turned to my now wife and told her that I'd like to know more about Jesus. That's simply what I said. I was just like, I want to know more about Jesus. Not that I want to become Christian, but if I'm going to follow someone, I'm going to follow Jesus. And that's exactly what I said. So she started sharing Bible verses with me. She started telling me more about Jesus. And I think 3 or 4 days later, she mentioned that the reason she put on the Passion of the Christ movie is because God told her it was time for me to see the real Jesus, to see the sacrifice, to see everything he stood for. So in that moment, she obeyed God, listened to God, and it started the journey towards my salvation. And like I said, I started reading the Bible. I went to church with her. And then 4 months later, well, actually 3 months after I went to church, I got baptized at our church, which is another great story as well. So I got baptized, and then in October, we went through marriage counseling because we were going to get married in December, and we went through marriage counseling at the same church I was baptized in. And so literally 2 months before my wedding and 2 days after my 31st birthday, I reach out to my parents, who are staunch Muslims still, and I simply told them that I've become a follower of Jesus. I'm Christian, and I just wanted to tell you, in Islam, if you leave Islam, most of the time you get excommunicated, you get disowned by your family. And I told my wife that before I reached out to my parents, that they may choose to disrespect me, choose to disown me, but God decided differently. So when I told my parents, my mother immediately said, "We don't care who you follow. We don't care who you worship. We are just very glad that you no longer sin and that you are following someone that you believe in," which for me was a complete different thought of what they were going to say. My father apologized for how the religion treated me in the past. That is not something I expected either. So God worked on them while he was working on me. And now I have a better relationship with my parents than I did in the first 33 years of my life. Before I became Christian, my relationship with my parents was not a relationship. It was just two adults that raised me. But when I became Christian and gave my life to Christ, now our relationship is better than it's ever been. And that's all due to God. And also, I moved out of America, and then I wrote my testimony book. I decided it was time for others to hear my testimony and see where I came from as a Muslim and how Jesus changed my life for the better. So I wrote that book, and I've been sharing that book. And I actually speak to someone tomorrow, a lady in my old religion, Ahmadi Muslim, who's wanting to leave Islam for Christianity. So it gives me my first opportunity to tell someone the good news of Christ. And she also was raised in the same practices that I was. So it gives me time to share our story, share our testimony, and help her come to Christ. That's my story.
Wow, thank you so much for that great story and the great, I want to say it, well done to your wife for the
Yes.
great work. It's
Yes.
not every woman that can do that work, that can do
Yes.
such great assignments. But your
Yes.
wife have done well, and
Yes.
thank God for a Christian life. You know, it's
Yes.
not everyone you find on
Yes. I say thank God for her. She obeyed God, and it helped me and led to my salvation. And she chose to listen to God when she could have just seen me as the broken person I was. But that's why I give all glory to God. But she deserves some of the congratulations for
God
actually
for
hearing me.
your life also, for giving yourself, making yourself available for
Yeah.
God, for making yourself available for God to you to take over your life, because it's
Yes.
not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. So I want to ask you a question. You said you started the journey. What year do you start?
Um, my journey to Christ, or what? When you say journey, what do you mean by journey? Can you hear me? Sorry. Yes. When you
So
say
I want to say, what year did you start? You know, I want you to give us the year you start your journey.
so my journey to Christ started in 2021. Um, September of 2021 is when I met Shanika, my now wife, and I became Christian. I mean, in October of 2021 is when I accepted Christ, gave my life to Christ, and then in March of 2022 is when I was baptized.
So, you know, you were born into a Muslim family
Yes.
in United States of America. So, which of the country your parents are from? Which of the country?
My father is from Pakistan, and my mother was is from England. I was actually born in England, but I moved to America when I was 2 years old.
Okay. So
Yeah.
your parents are English people.
Yeah, my wife, sorry, my mom is British. My dad is Pakistani. So yes.
Okay. Wow. So, your parents, I mean, your dad is from England also.
No, he's from Pakistan. He was born and raised in Pakistan. So yes, he was born Ahmadi Muslim in Pakistan, and then because of persecution in Pakistan towards Ahmadi Muslims, he had to flee to Germany, and then he met and married my mom in England, and then I was born in 1989 in England, but moved to America in 1991.
Okay, wow, that's great. So,
Yes.
you wait. Do you have? Are you privileged to attend any Islamic school?
No, I didn't. Not in America. I went to the mosque every day. I mean, I did everything a Muslim did except going through Islamic school. I went to an American school, but I had to follow the laws of Islam while I was in the American schools. So um, that's what I'll say.
Okay, wow. So that means you are not all that rooted in Islam before you gave
No,
your life to Christ.
no, I was a Muslim. I fasted every day. I did 5 daily prayers. I read the Quran. I memorized almost 40 chapters of the Quran. I was a devout Muslim. I was. I just didn't grow up like they do in other countries or other places where Islam rules everything. Because I lived in America, I was, Islam was in where I grew up in Michigan. I would go to my mosque, but my life was rooted in Islam. That's what I will say. It was rooted in Islam. My whole
Wow.
life was
So,
shaped by Islam.
what from I find out that in the journey of life, I live in the northern part of Nigeria where Islam is more prominent and
Okay.
had ground. And I find it that I found out because I was born here, I grew here, and I find out that converting from Islam to Christianity is not an easy task. Here we have a lot of such person will be attacked, such person will maybe killed, such person will be placed under punishment, so such person may be considered being insane. So
Yeah.
how did you were able to escape all this? Do you want to tell me that you would never experience any persecution in the process of your conversion?
Um, I mean, persecution from family, but while I was actually, I'll say it like this: when I was Muslim, I faced more persecution for being from family who, I mean, I'll say it like this: the only people that have persecuted me are some family members who saw my story on Facebook and made comments about Jesus did not die on the cross, made comments like that. But I have had the privilege, and I believe I don't know, God has its hand on me where I have not felt any kind of persecution or fear of sharing my story, because that's why I'm able to write my book, because others I know, I mean, I'm connecting with people in actually Uganda, in Kenya. I've spoken to ex-Muslims who are Christians who, like you said, could be killed. The apostasy laws, where if you leave Islam and become Christian, they have the right to kill you. That's directly from Islam. But because I grew up and was raised in America, I never felt any kind of persecution, even with Muslim. So when I became Christian, I didn't feel any fear. I didn't feel any discrimination. And that's why the only discrimination I thought I was going to face was from my parents. So that's why I told my wife, when I tell my parents, if they don't accept this, that's going to be normal. But they accepted it. And the moment they accepted it, I just decided to start writing the book to share my testimony, and to also, another thing I'm going to be doing besides my book is I'm actually reaching out to ex-Muslims who are Christians who can't openly share their testimony, and I'm writing a second book where they can share their story with me anonymously, so that others can understand that this is really happening, because people don't believe this is happening. People don't believe a religion can do this to people, but you can, like you said, in Nigeria it's happening, in Kenya, in Uganda, in Iran. What's happening with Iran, it happens in Iran. So that's my I feel my platform is to allow or help ex-Muslims who are Christian share their testimony, because Jesus says, share your testimony. You're supposed to tell people the good news of God, of Jesus. And if you came from an Islamic background or you were Muslim and you came to Christ, you should have the right to share that testimony. But unfortunately, because of Islamic laws, they treat that as betrayal. They treat that as, like you said, that you're betraying the religion, you're betraying Islam, and you shouldn't be able to speak that. And for me, that does not feel right. For me, that is something I want to fight for, because everybody should have the freedom to choose what they want, Everyone should have the freedom to believe what they want and the freedom of religion. But that's also because I grew up in America, where I am allowed all those freedoms. Where in these other countries, they are not allowed. And that's something that needs to be talked about, needs to be brought to
So,
someone's attention.
you said the way you tell your story of conversion, the process of conversion, I'm saying is so simple. But I want to ask, during the process of your conversion, after you said you were crying because you see the way that it was Jesus was whipped, the punishment he was undergoing.
Yes.
How, what, in that period, what are the things that resonate in your mind, that begins to run in your mind, alter your mind, even after you leave your girlfriend's place, that's with your present wife, and after all, before after you study the Bible, what are those things that begins to come up to resonate in your life, to begins to run through your mind?
Well, for me, again, being when I was born Ahmadi Muslim, we believed he went to the cross, right? We believe he went to the cross, but they don't believe he died on the cross. They don't believe he died for our sins. So when I was watching, the first thing that resonated with me is when when I saw him being whipped and beaten. I started crying because I knew he was innocent. I could feel his innocence because and that's what started me crying, because the injustice that was done to him for someone who was innocent, who was just trying to preach and share the good news of God and share all the love that God has for everyone. To see someone like that go to the cross as an innocent man, and just to be whipped, that started in my mind thinking, okay, this is not right. First off, for what is happening to him, and then by the end of it, I just decided, I was like, well, if I'm gonna follow someone, if I'm gonna give my life to someone, it's going to be Jesus. That's simply what I said. Is just seeing
You
his character, just seeing his sacrifice for my sins, made me
you shared
start crying.
the story of your ideal of whom Christ was, that when you're a Muslim, that
Yes.
is an Indian man, that's what the Quran says. But after you read the Bible, do you have a change of heart that Christ is not whom the Quran says? Because I know in the Quran says Jesus is the Son of God. Is that not? Yes,
See,
but
this,
they don't believe he goes to the cross, he died on the cross.
so a lot of there's different sects of Islam. So certain Muslims believe that he didn't go to the cross. They believe that the robber who was crucified next to him took his place, and Jesus never went to the cross. They believe he ascended to heaven alive. They believe he never died, and he's sitting in heaven alive waiting to come back. That's what a lot of Muslims believe, is that he never went to the cross at all. I believed he went to the cross, but we believed he never died on the cross. And we were told he went to the cross because, actually, I don't remember why we were told he went to the cross, but we just did not believe that he died on the cross. And in the Quran, I actually tell people this because it was in Arabic. I was never taught the true meaning of Arabic. I was just taught the language so I could read the Quran. So I can't remember where Jesus was brought up in the Quran. That's just how I remember. I don't remember reading about Jesus in the Quran because it was in Arabic, and we were just taught directly from what the religion said he was. That's the only understanding I had about Jesus. I didn't read it in the Quran. I didn't understand it from the all.
So, as now a Christian, a Muslim that transformed or that become a Christian, so what are the hidden truths, the hidden truths in the Quran that are not revealed to
So you said, what are the hidden truths in the Quran that are not revealed? Or can you say that again? Uh, could, can you repeat the last thing you said, please? Sorry. Can you repeat your last question? I didn't fully understand it.
Yes, I said as a Christian, as a Muslim that changed to Christian, that got converted to Christian,
Yeah.
what are the hidden truths in the Quran that were not revealed to the Muslims about Jesus?
Well, I don't. So I'm going to be honest. I don't remember a lot of what I read in the Quran. So that question, unfortunately, I don't have an answer for. Based on what I learned in the Quran, and what I know now from the Bible.
Well, so let me say, what are the differences between your life when you are a Muslim and now that you're a Christian? What are the differences? Can you just do comparison?
Yes, yes. So as a Muslim, so this is what I'll compare. As a Muslim, you were told you have to pray 5 times a day, right? You do 5 prayers every single day for the rest of your life. And as a Christian, you can pray to God whenever you want to pray. You can pray in any way you want to pray to God. You can pray in songs, you can pray in worship, you can pray on your hands and knees, you can pray any way you want. But as a Muslim, you could only pray to God during the 5 daily prayers. So that's one of the biggest things that I took. Prayer is a requirement in Islam because you have to pray 5 times a day. Fasting, right now, they're going through Ramadan. Fasting for 30 days without food or water because they want you to feel, like the poor people feel. But for me to say that going without water for 15 hours, I did not believe God would tell me to do that. And again, you are forced to fast. It is not a choice to fast. You are told you are fasting every 30 days during Ramadan. And if you miss one fast, you actually have to make up another 30 days of fasting for every fast you miss. So for me, growing up, it felt like more of a requirement than it did a something I could choose to do. Where now, as a Christian, me and my wife, we fast. We've done the Daniel fast to hear from God. I've fasted to hear from God about specific things because it says in the Bible, Jesus fasted for 40 days. He says to fast to connect with God. When I was fasting, I was angry at God for making me fast because I didn't understand it. And I still to this day don't understand why going without food or water for 15 hours and being forced to do it is fasting. It's a ritual, it's something that's required of you. And I also say it like this. I say the entire religion is very strict and everything is forced. There's no free will. You are not allowed to question God. You are not allowed to question Muhammad. You are not allowed to question anyone because it's the Quran. First off, the Quran is the word. You don't question it. Even if you have questions about the Quran, you are told to keep it. You do not question it. Whereas a Christian, you can question, speak to God. I mean, David questioned God. He lamented to God. There's the chapter of Lamentations in the Bible where people, they're reaching out to God and complaining to God and praying to God and trying to understand what they're dealing with. You were told just to be a good Muslim and not to speak out about it. That's another big aspect of it as well. And the last thing I will say for me, and I saw this directly, is the oppression of women. People have told me that, I was taught that Muhammad loved women. He loved all, he treated women with respect. Everything I saw in Islam, and even in my own home, what I saw with the persecution my mother faced, the persecution all the Ahmadi Muslim women face because they're told they have to wear the hijab. They're told they have to bow down to the man. They are told that they are lesser than the man. That is directly from the words of Muhammad, that he says that women are intellectually less than men, and he says that if a woman gives testimony, there has to be two women agreeing to that testimony, because one man's testimony is better than two women's testimony. And for me, that shows that they don't respect women. They don't love the women, like he said. And as a Christian, I love my wife. I would never put any. We They have Proverbs 31, right? Proverbs 31. I describe my wife as a Proverbs 31 woman because of what she has done for me, the respect she's shown, the love we have for each other. I consider her equal partners. Like, when I was going through marriage counseling, we were told we were one echad, which means one flesh in Christ. When I was
Yes.
and that's where I put that in my book. When I was Muslim, you do what's called arranged marriages, where the families will pick your wife. I was told that when I was actually 22 years old, my mother reached out to me and said, "We want to do an arranged marriage for you," even though I was no longer Muslim. They didn't know I was no longer Muslim, but they were like, "Okay, we want you to do an arranged marriage. We will pick your wife for you." And that didn't feel right for myself, but also for that woman who I was going to be married to. The fact that she didn't have the choice to be married to me. It was, if I was going to get married in Islam, I was going to be the one who, I was going to pick my wife, and that wife had to obey, because that's how it is. Arranged marriages, the woman I don't feel has rights, and that's just how I felt, and that actually made me even angrier at Islam and angrier at my parents when they asked me to do an arranged marriage. I just didn't feel they didn't have a choice, and I didn't have a choice. So that's the main difference. And then for me, the Bible. So the last thing I'll say is, when I read the Quran in Arabic, there was no comfort in the Quran. I didn't feel comforted every time I read the Quran. I didn't feel like, oh, God is listening to me, God is with me. Where when you read the Bible, the first verse, the biggest verse, John 3:16, where for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. That's the difference between the Quran and the Bible. Is it talks about Jesus, it talks about peace, it talks about love. Jesus tells you to love your enemies. In Islam, I was not taught that. In Islam, I was not taught to love your enemies. And what I'll say is, like I said, everything that Jesus taught, everything that Jesus did, that was the only reason I became Christian, was to follow him, not the religion itself. It was to follow him, follow his teachings, and try to tell people about who Jesus was and the good news of the gospel.
So I want to ask you this before I bring two more questions, then we'll bring the recording to stop. What are those things that you would like to expose in Islam that are not, that maybe that makes you to feel that Islam is not a genuine religion, or maybe it's not a religion of God, or what do you do? What are those things?
So the biggest thing I want to expose is the apostasy laws. No, I do not believe that God told anyone in Islam or any Muslim or even Muhammad, even though it says it in the Quran, that if someone leaves your religion or finds some other religion, that you have the right to kill them. That's the first thing that needs to be exposed to everyone about Islam. The fact that there's 15 to 16 countries in the world that tell you, if you become Christian and you're ex-Muslim and you were Muslim, we have the right to kill you. We have the right to kill your family. We have the right to do everything to harm you, when the religion means peace, right? Islam, I was taught that Islam means peace. But for me to understand that, for them to say that there's no freedom in Islam. You're not free to question, you're not free to learn about Jesus, you're not free to do anything. And that needs to be exposed, because that is not right. There's freedom of religion, but in Islam, there's no freedom of religion. There's no freedom to, you know, to learn what you want to learn. That's the biggest thing for me. The other thing is the treatment of women. The fact that my mother, who is still Muslim, has suffered in a marriage. She was married when she was 15 years old, and my father was 20 years old. So there's a 5-year age difference. She was still what you would technically say. And for me, it's just the aspect of the treatment of women in the religion. That's what I want to also say. Because, we are taught that the woman and the man are one ikad, they're one flesh. But growing up in Islam, I just saw, and not just on my own, from my own family, but from others, is to see that the woman is considered less than the man in the religion. That's another thing that does not still sit right with me.
So, what I want you to set the difference to make comparison between the Christian marriage and the marriage in a Muslim marriage. What are the
Well,
difference?
so the biggest again difference is for me was that the woman didn't have the right. The woman didn't get to choose the marriage. The man's family told the woman's family that you are going to marry my son. We will give you some money. We will give you gifts, but your daughter is going to marry my son. And for me, it just didn't feel like the woman had a choice. Where, as Christians, I mean, my wife could have my wife, when I proposed to her, I courted her, right? We spent time together. We came up through Christ together, and I chose. She could have said no to me. She could have said, no, I'm not marrying you. We are not going to be married. Where they don't have that ability in Islam to do that.
So now we see the world, the way Islam is going in the world, and the rate that there are persecutions of Christians, even
Yes.
persecutions of Muslims being converted to Christians. What do you
Yes.
have to say about it?
I just have to say as strongly as I can that is one of the worst things that can happen. A religion should be a freedom. You should have the freedom to believe what you want to believe. No religion, even Christianity, should not dictate what you can say, what you can speak, and that needs to be told, everywhere. That just because I left Islam, because I found a better life for myself in another religion, that is my right. That should be that is my right. But that should be everyone's right, that to pick and choose the religion. That's why, again, in America, it's called the freedom of religion, right? The freedom of choice. But I understand in a lot of other places that freedom does not exist. But for me, it doesn't matter that it shouldn't affect you if someone leaves your religion. If your religion is your religion, it should not affect you that I left your religion and found something better. My life got better does not mean that it affected your life in a negative way in any situation, and especially in this, religious religions.
So, well, thank you so much, Abbas. I want
Yeah.
you to say, what do you have for those who are struggling to get converted to Christians, the Muslims who are struggling? We've had a lot of story. Even I told you where I'm living, where I was born. We've seen a lot of people hiding to study the Bible, but they are afraid of coming out boldly to declare that, oh, I have given my life to Christ. What advice or what do you have for them, for such people?
Well, I want to be that person where they can reach out to privately if they need to share their testimony, to share their story. If they can't do it openly right now, I want to at least give them the ability to share that, the ability to question, the abilities for that. And they can do that. I can share I started a WhatsApp group for ex-Muslim Christians because social media is dangerous for them. But if I have a few members who are already speaking openly and honestly about their testimony. And that's what I want to do. I want to give ex-Muslim Christians, or even Muslims who want to leave for Christianity, the ability for someone to talk to. They can reach me on my WhatsApp. They can visit my website and share their testimony or share their concerns through email, and I can email them. They're not alone. That's all I want. That's what I want to say. They're not alone. You know, um, I want to hear from them. That's what I want to do. If I can use my platform to hear other Muslim to Christian testimonies and help others the way God has helped me, because I have the freedom to speak. I have the freedom to write my book. I have the freedom to post on social media. And if others can't, I do want to be the voice for them. I do want to call out the darkness, but I also want them to be able to share their testimony. So I'm writing that book. That's the thing. It's called From the Mosque to the Cross, The Untold Stories. They can send me an email. They can remove all their names. They can just share what they went through. They can share their conversion. They do not have to put their name there for safety reason. And I just want to share their stories. That's what my purpose is.
So can you just give how they can get in touch with you?
Yes. So they can go. I have TikTok, I have Instagram, and I have Facebook. And my it's From Mosque to Cross. That's the name of my social media platforms. My website is from mosque2cross.com. That is where they can share their testimony, read my testimony. And then I do have a Christian, ex-Muslim to Christian WhatsApp group. They can reach out to me through TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or email, and I can add them to my WhatsApp group so that they can openly share their testimony with other ex-Muslims who are Christians who are doing the same.
Wow, thank you so much. Well, I appreciate you so much. And I want to ask you this, maybe you add to it. What encouragement you have for the Church of God?
Well, for the Church of God, I just say we need to spread the word of Jesus more, love our neighbors, especially in countries like Nigeria and Africa, and bring people together. Bring people together and just continue preaching the word of God. Keep speaking about Jesus, because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. And just continue preaching about Jesus. Talk about the good news. That's what I want to do, and that's what I believe the church needs to continue doing.
Wow, so much. We want to say thank you, Abass, for coming
Yes.
on Season of Truth to share your story. And I
Yes.
believe a lot of our audience will get back to you, will reach out back to you, and we'll be telling you. I want to say this, that at any time we can also still get in touch with you, still call you back to still come on these platforms to still tell us more about your journey of conversion and how you are living your Christian life, how you are enjoying it now with your
Yes.
wife. So I believe that the door is open for us whenever we call on you.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, that would
So
fantastic.
So thank you so much. We want to really appreciate you. We're going to
Yes.
be making sure that as many that reach out to us will get back to you through
Perfect.
us so that they can get in touch with you, so that the gospel of Christ will still reach all part of the world. And
Yes.
we want to tell you that rest assured that as Christ live, God will continue to keep you and strengthen your home. So we'll
Yes.
be praying for you, and
Thank you.
because of the good work you're doing, I'll be praying for your home. So thank you so much. I remain your host, Evangelist Joseph Jeremiah. This is Season of Change. You can get connected to us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, and you can also follow our websites also. And at any point in time, you can reach out to us if you have your story to share after listening to the story of Abass Khan. God bless you, Abass, as we bring the recording to a stop. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Have a great day.